Hello everyone, today I'm going to empty the DIY hot composter in the big tunnel, and then I'm going to give you a bit of an update on the new polytunnel progress. There's been some progress, not a great deal, but we'll go over that. Well, first I want to start in here because at the end of last year I had my Crimson Crush tomato side shoots, the one I'd taken off the plants, grown on, and then I'd grown up here and got crops off, and I took my last tomatoes off these plants at the start of December. Then, as we all know, here in the UK we had that big freeze, and any tomatoes that were left to ripen on these plants sort of succumbed to the cold and they died along with the plants. But we're in that freeze. This bed was just left, and it was just yesterday that I finally took the old plants out, had a little bit of a dig through this, got rid of all the weeds, because I was going to empty my hot composter from just outside here, the one that was given to me. It's a paid for one, if you like. I was going to empty that and put this on this bed so that this will then be ready for more plants this spring, part of getting this tunnel ready for the next season. But I was a little bit taken aback when I went to look at the hot composter, and we're going to have a look at that in a minute. So I'll give you a bit of a brief update on the hotbin composter out there. I started filling it in September last year, and it was much bigger then. It was twice that size. I've got the actual sides, the top part of it, that's one end of it, and it was up here, that sort of a height, and it did really well at start, and I'd mounted it onto a pallet to put it onto a level base, and it was a good strong pallet at the time. But as you can hear now, the weather got to it and it started to sag in the middle, so the composter did as well, and it meant that the joins on where these portions sort of fit together, there was a gap, and the heat was either escaping or the cold was getting into it, so it didn't perform as well as I was expecting, or as indeed it should have done. So eventually I had to sort of eat humble pie, take the thing apart. I put it all into one level. I took everything out of it and put it back in. But as I put everything back in, I mixed some freshly mown grass into it, a couple of big bin bags full, to get the heat back up. And that was doing well. This was sort of the end of November. It was heating up well. Temperature on a daily basis was rising and rising and rising. Then we got that cold spell at the start of December, and it killed it basically. We were having temperatures down to -17, -15, those sort of things, and killed the temperature. And when I took a temperature reading of it after a few days of the freeze, it was only 2 degrees in the middle, and the edges of the compost felt so cold that I thought, well, it's frozen. I thought that was the end of it. It was mostly composted and it was going to be good for mulch, and I was going to use it on that bed. But then I was shocked. Literally yesterday, after digging that bed over and going to have a look at the compost, getting ready to move it on there, I was stopped short because it's up at 40 degrees again. It's reactivated itself with just the general warmth of the weather and the climate itself. It's reactivated itself and it's got going again. Say it's up at 40 degrees, which is in the active area. It's not very hot, but it's certainly noticeable. Even with a thick gloved hand, you can feel the heat through it. And when you actually lift the lid, you'll see steam rising. I'm hoping I can capture that in a minute when I go and lift it and show you what's in there. So I'm now in two minds as to what to do, but I think I'm going to leave it and let it carry on composting and wait for it to cool naturally, and then I'll spread it on that bed. Either way, all that compost will be going onto that bed. We'll have a quick look in there now, and then we'll get in the main tunnel and start emptying the other one. And so with the lid off, you can see how good this compost is in here. It's a little bit damp, but you'd expect that because that's a sealed unit. And I'm hoping that by digging this over like this and through, that maybe you can see some of the steam coming off it. It is very faint now because it's quite windy, but this is good. I'm very pleased with that. And I'll just give you a close in now of this close up of this thermometer. So there we go, 40 degrees in the fun zone or active zone. So here in the main tunnel, I've cleared out all the dead plants that the deep freeze killed, which was all the way down this side here, and these first 1, 2, 3, 4 beds completely just annihilated everything. About the only thing that's survived on the plot really is kale and a few leeks, and that's about it. That's all right in itself. That's fine, because it's only a once in a 5 or 6 year event. All the other winters I get veg all the way through, which is also good. But anyway, I've cleared it, and what I'm doing is emptying this DIY composter. I've broken it apart now, looked at it. I've laid out some. We'll get you in close in a minute to have a look at it, and I'm going to cover all these beds. Now, the thing is that this compost also suffered with the cold, but it also is not as professional a job as the hotbin composter we've just seen outside, which is designed to do a job. This is cobbled together for me as a trial, so it hasn't worked as efficiently. There's also, when I've been breaking the stuff up to put in that compost, I've been breaking it down as I would do for a normal cold compost heap, where I just break it down things roughly into this sort of size, because I know a bit of a stem of a plant over time in a cold compost heap over a year will get soaked through and it will rot apart. It doesn't quite work that way in a hot compost area. You need things really small, then it all heats up and then the microbes destroy it. So as a result, there are lots of big bits within this compost, which again is fine. It's great as a mulch compost, and that's how I'm going to use it at the moment. I'm going to spread it all out as a mulch, and then just see as we go. I may dig it in, or I may leave it on top as a no dig bed. I just want to see how it resettles on the bed, how it looks, how it feels, and if I think I've got a reasonable enough depth of compost on these beds once it's spread out to use it as no dig. If I haven't, then I'll dig it in as goodness for in the soil. But we'll get you in close now and we'll have a look at that. So this is what resembles the middle of the heap now, because I've already taken half of it out. I mean, you can see things in there like that's an eggshell in there. Obviously came from home. And you can see it's done a reasonable job. There is lots of nice compost in there. It just could have done with a bit longer heating and a bit more time to mature. But overall, I'm happy. But it's, as I say, it's got a lot of these twigs in here, which in a normal cold composting system, that would get wet through and rot down fine. So for this hot composting, I've just got to cut the stuff a lot smaller. But this is all going to come out now and go up over onto those beds. So I'm not too despondent at all. I think it's worked very well. And this is it spread out onto the beds. A lot of the cardboard hasn't rotted down as well as I would have liked. But again, this stuff just sort of breaks apart quite easily. And it'll be great for water retention in the soil. Again, so I'm not too concerned. I would like it to be nice as no dig, but we'll see. When we get nearer the time, I'll make that decision later. So that's it, it's empty now, and if I just quickly walk you up here, you can see I've managed to get into all the corner there, all the way down that edge, down the bottom, and I filled those 2 beds. Not quite enough to do these 2 beds if I was to keep it deep enough for no dig. As I say, I'm a little bit 50-50 on whether I'll leave it as no dig. I think I probably will, but we'll see. We'll see how it settles and how thick it is when I come back to have a look at it. At the moment it looks quite thick because it's all fluffed up. We'll see how it settles. But in the meantime, I've got these 2 beds which would be nice to fill the same as the others. So what I think I'm going to do is the hotbin composter that's outside that was showed at the start of the video, I'm going to empty that in the next couple of days and get it back on and start making another mix in there, because it's only sort of early part of January. 3 months we'll see is the early part of March, and if I can scavenge enough materials, and I think I can, then I can get another mix ready and fill these areas, and maybe if there's any bare patches in them back areas, fill them also. So I think that's a good sensible plan to move forward with, and it'll be a good part of this tunnel that's no dig. This bed behind me is also no dig. It's also a bit of a mess at the minute because of this compost bin in here and all the cardboard I got stacked away for it. But it now means I can clear all this away and tidy up all this cardboard, get it away in the shed, out the way, get tidied up, ready for spring. And this will be a good wet day job. So it might stay like this for a week or so, but we'll get it cleared away. So up here in the new polytunnel area, there was an old polytunnel here, which is why there are these 2 beds in a minute. It was an old blow away frame job, so it didn't really matter if it was that level, but I wanted to landscape this to get it level for the new tunnel going up, so that things are mostly straight and true when it's all finished. So I've had to import soil down that bottom edge and along there to level it up. It would have been about 6 inches out, and I'm just sort of raking these beds down now just to level this all off properly. So that's the next job. This won't take, it's not a very long or big job to do. Then this will mostly be level. I can check over it front to back, side to side, make some adjustments if I need to, and then I can start digging for the foundation tubes and get motoring on with that. And I've got to admit, I can't wait, because I'm 1 tunnel short. It sounds greedy. I've got 2 tunnels up, but I'm used to having 3, and I really miss not having this tunnel here at the moment, because what I'll do is I'll work in one and I'll move stuff out of the one that I'm working on into another tunnel, which sort of, if I'm working on one tunnel, it leaves me with not much space to work. Sounds silly, I know, but there we go. That's why there's a lot of mess in the big tunnel at the moment, but it is what it is. We'll get this up. It'll be up before spring, so don't forget to subscribe, and you can follow and watch the progress of this going up, and then how I use it through the spring and summer. So this DIY hotbin composter has worked quite well, really. Not as good as the version that you would have to buy, admittedly not. That is superb, and it's like a Rolls Royce, and this is, you know, a Reliant Robin in comparison. But I can move forward now with this, and I'm going to change the design, and I'm going to change the material to one that will be more suited to outside weather. I've said it before a couple of times, if this polystyrene gets wet outside, it will just start to degrade and fall apart. We'll use a different material, and I'll protect and wrap that and make a much better and easier design to manage. That will be from probably the spring onwards. We'll have to see about that. But that's definitely something I'm going to be using again. And it's produced a reasonable amount of compost to help go no dig from something that was rubbish. There was a lot of weeds in there and a lot of rubbish from around the plot that I've collected. So it'll be interesting to see, and I'm ready for it and prepared for it, to see if I get a big proliferation of weeds now, because I chucked everything in there. We'll see what happens with that. But for now and for today, that's it. I'm looking forward to getting tidied up in here and getting the tunnel back as a proper polytunnel. But please stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.